getting bused. It was about a lot of things that we didn't totally understand, but over time we've come to understand a lot better. It was about, you know, hey, bottom line is, you know, I want my kids to be safe. I don't, you know, my kids can go to school. I love my kids, maybe not in '68, but now more and more people want their kids to be in a broad cross section, multiculturality. They also want them to be safe. It's important, and so I made schools a priority. And one of the things I think, you know, hearing you all, you know, I made it a priority, even though it's not technically part of my job, and some, you know, not you guys, not the daily news. As some said, well, hey, go do your job better than you're doing it now, and don't take on the issue of education. But I knew you can't hear me back there? I'm sorry, I knew we couldn't take it on. Boy, you can't hear me? All right. I knew we had to take it on because I knew how important it was. I really did. Because when you think about why people have left LA and went to the Valley, why they've left the Valley and gone to Orange County, why they left Orange County and gone to Idlewild, why they left Idlewild and gone to Idaho. Well, I mean, that's the track, right? Why have they done that? Safety in the neighborhoods, the schools aren't doing well, and the cost of housing. And so, you know, I've made this, you know, education fight my mantra, and someone said, well, gee, it's been 3 years, and what have you done? Tell you what I did. I went to the legislature and fought the Democrats, my friends. You know, initially I fought the California Teachers Association. I took them on. I got the governor, you know, and the speaker, and we passed the legislation. Then the school district sued me. I had to raise $1 million, and of course I got beat up in the papers for raising $1 million, even though I'm raising it for kids. But you know, then I had to go fight them lost in the trial court, lost in the appeals court on the constitutionality. Didn't give up. Went after the 4 school board members that, you know, didn't want to help and you know, didn't want to really, didn't see the urgency for reform. Got a new school board. But, you know, then we had to have votes in all the schools. I've had the votes now, so starting July, I guess it's 9 schools and 18,000 kids. And what I want to do is, you know, do like some of the charters have done, Green Dot, the Alliance, some of the charters that you hear, you know, Granada Hills High School, some of the charters you have here, and really show people what we can do when we have high expectations for kids, you know, spend money locally, cut bureaucracy, and really focus on achievement. You know, the third area that I heard a lot, and I'm very proud of this, you know, people would say, particularly in my debates, you know, they would criticize me a lot, you know, about, well, you speak in big, grandiose, kind of dreaming kind of stuff, but you know, what are you going to do about potholes? What are you going to do about tree trimming? What are you going to do about street repair? And I'll tell you, again, I listened to that. I saw how popular Wendy Gruhl was and how she was known as the pothole queen. And, you know, listening on. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not the smartest guy, you know, on the planet, but I listen and, you know, hear people out, and I realized it was important to people. So I'll tell you, you know, we're going to hit the 1 million pothole field by the end of the year. No mayor. You go do the back. You go look in the back. No mayor has done that many potholes in that short period of time. And we're proposing to repair 735 miles of repair. This is the first time, I said this in my State of the City, the first time since World War II that we're actually repairing more streets than are deteriorating. First time since World War II. And I'm very proud of that because I recognize, you know, we've expanded, you know, people made a big thing about in this budget, we want to, because it's the largest budget in LA history, you know, we're budget deficit, the largest budget in LA history. Carrie. You know, and by the way, she's a great reporter. She's fair. She's fair. You know, I'll be honest, and he knows this for true. The newspaper I have problems with is the one on the other end. At least they do their work. But you know, I have focused on those small things. You know, when another thing run on, but I saw real quickly early on, I never ran as a fiscal conservative. In fact, when people were nervous about me, they said, well, this guy's, he's just a bleeding heart liberal. I like that he wants to do all these things. Where are we going to get the money, right, Joe? And, first thing I did, I had a $297 million structural deficit. In the first year, I cut $97 million. I cut it by a third in the first year. In the second year, I cut it to $200 million. This year, the structural deficit is going to be zero. It's going to be zero. Structural deficit is the money we borrow from our reserve to pay for ongoing costs. So in other words, it's like a family, if you have $800, we're borrowing $300 every year to pay for things that are ongoing. Even in this budget, and Daily News, other people have criticized me, and rightfully so. I mean, I think it's important to have these debates. They said, well, he wants to raise fees. And I said, well, yeah, but for every dollar in fees that I'm going to raise, that I'm proposing to raise, I'm proposing to cut $1.50. And I don't know if you saw the council, and I don't mind if you put this on your little. I love the budget committee does the following the other day. They said, oh, I think the mayor is being too optimistic about the revenues that he's proposing. I think there are less revenues. Well, hey, that's a legitimate issue. Mayors do that from time to time, right? Don't they? That's a legitimate issue. At the same point, they reject up to 33 million of the cuts that I'm making. Don't propose more cuts. In other words, they're saying my revenue is too high, which means they should be cutting even more than I'm cutting, right? They should be cutting at least the minimum, the difference between where they think revenues really are and where I proposed them, that much more than my proposal, and they cut, even less. And I take umbrage with that. One of the things I've tried to do, and I'll end with this, with all of you, I've tried to be straight and talk straight. I don't talk with forked tongue. I know not everybody's gonna, they used to say about me, problem with Antonio Villaraigosa, he wants everybody to love him. In fact, someone did this psychoanalysis. I think somebody working for you. And they did this. They got this psychiatrist to say that I do a lot of the things that I do because, I was the victim of domestic violence, and my father left me, and I was, oh my God. And of course, this was a psychiatrist who had never spent 2 minutes with me, and anybody who's a psychiatrist in the room knows you can't make an evaluation of somebody that way, but that's what people do. And the fact of the matter is we all want to be loved. But the one thing I've learned about in this job is not everybody's going to love you, and you got to call them like you see them. And I'll give you 2 examples of that, and then I'll end and open it up to you. One, I know a lot of people, this issue of immigration drives a lot of people nuts. I understand that. Yeah. I tell people, one of my proudest moments was when those 500,000 people came in their carriages with their white things and American flags, and they said they wanted to be a part of the American dream. A lot of people took umbrage, John and Ken. A lot of people really took umbrage with that, but I said it was one of my proudest moments. I knew it wasn't good for me politically to go out there and greet these people. I'm going to get beat up over it, but I believe in what I believe in, and I went out there. 3 days later, so the right really beat me up. The real conservatives really beat me up, and the kind of left and libs, they loved that I did that, right? 3 days later, their kids go out on the streets, and they're wearing bandanas, and they got Mexican flags, and they're taking over the darn freeways. And what did I do? I ticketed them, and I truancy'd them. And I told the superintendent, and he wouldn't do it at the time we were rolling. And then I got, Bratton, and we started ticketing all these kids. Why? Because I said, hey, your parents came here for a better life. They want you to go to school. Get back to school. You want to go protest in the morning, protest in the afternoon. Then I got the other half of the city upset. One of the things I try to do is I call them like I see them. Second thing, everybody knows I'm pro-civil rights. And as mayor, I've supported the consent decree and reform in the department. I just believe the one social compact we all got to have is thou shalt not discriminate. But when that suit came